They haven't called. That's all we know. They haven't called. But give the human mind enough silence and watch what happens. They are always busy becomes they never have time for me. Then I guess I'm just not that important. And eventually, if they really cared, I wouldn't have to wonder. Interesting, because we started with a phone that didn't ring and somehow ended up questioning whether someone loves us or not. So let me ask you something. When exactly did the evidence change? It didn't. The story did. And that's what makes this case dangerous. Because the stories that damage relationships do not always begin with lies. Sometimes they begin with missing information. And human beings are remarkably good at filling in the empty spaces. Someone's quiet. We feel the silence. Someone's busy. We assign the reason. Someone's late. We write the motive. Someone needs space. We predict the ending. Someone doesn't respond the way we expect. And before we've asked a single question, we have already written 3 chapters. Then something happens that very few of us recognize. We stop responding to the person and start responding to the story we have written about them. That's when the temperatures change. The call finally comes and you are colder. They text and your response gets shorter. They walk through the door and something about you feels guarded. They ask, "What's wrong?" You say, "Nothing." But something is very wrong. Because while they were gone, you had an entire conversation they never attended. And now they are about to pay for everything that was said in it. Tonight, we are reopening the case, not to investigate what they did. Not yet. We are investigating something much closer. The story you told yourself before you ever asked what was true. Welcome back to Fire and Ice, Truth Under Pressure. I'm Sir Chain. This is not a relationship advice show. This is an investigation. We don't enter these case files looking for someone to blame. We enter looking for what is true, because being right may win an argument, but truth is the only thing capable of showing us what actually needs to change. In our last investigation, we exposed the translator between us. We discovered that 2 people can hear the same words, experience the same moment, and walk away carrying 2 completely different meanings. We examine perception, interpretation, emotion, and response. But there was one piece of evidence we intentionally left on the table, because interpretation does not always stop at interpretation. Sometimes we take what we think something meant and we begin building a fortress around it. We connect yesterday's arguments to today's silence. Today's silence to last week's unanswered text. The unanswered text to something somebody else once did to us. And piece by piece by piece, we construct a story. Then we make one of the most dangerous mistakes in human relationships. We begin treating the story as evidence. That's case file 004. Tonight, I'm not only interested in what happened to you, I want to know, what did you add to what happened? What do you actually know? What do you feel? What do you fear? What have you assumed? And what can you verify? Those questions sound familiar. They are not. And before this investigation is over, we are going to separate them, because sometimes your instincts were right. Sometimes somebody really did withdraw. Somebody really did lie. Trust really was violated. The evidence is real. We are not here to teach you to ignore evidence. We are here to teach you not to manufacture it, because there is a difference between recognizing pattern and writing an ending. And if you do not learn that difference, you may spend years protecting yourself from something that hasn't happened, while slowly changing the very relationship you are afraid to lose. So let's put the first piece of evidence on the table. Not what you think happened, not what you felt happened, but what actually happened. Let's begin with a simple fact. Your phone hasn't rung. That's it. That's the evidence. No phone call, no text, no check-in. It's 3 p.m. and somewhere inside you, a question begins forming. Why haven't they called me? Nothing wrong with the question. Questions are healthy. Questions become dangerous when curiosity quietly becomes a conclusion, because now the mind starts filling in the spaces. They had time to call. Nobody is that busy. It takes 10 seconds to send a text. If they wanted to talk to me, they would have. If they wanted to see me, they would have found a way. And there it is. We crossed the line. We went from they haven't called me to they don't want to call me. Those statements are not the same. One is evidence. The other is a story. And stories don't stay neutral for very long. Once you believe they don't want to call me, the next thought comes easy. I'm obviously not a priority. Then something feels different. Then maybe they are pulling away. Then they are hiding something. Then I knew this was going to happen. Wait, just wait. What happened? 5 minutes ago, we had an unanswered phone. Now we have a relationship in trouble. Did new evidence arrive? Or did fear finish writing the story? Let me take you into another room, because an investigation has to examine evidence from more than one angle. While one person is staring at a silent phone, the other person's day looks completely different. They are working. A crisis came up. A deadline shifted. A fire had to be put out. We are not excusing emotional absence. We are investigating it. Here's the evidence a person staring at the phone cannot see. Some of the responsibilities taking that person away from you may actually involve you. Maybe you mentioned your car needed service. They remembered. Between meetings, they picked up your car, drove it across town, waited for hours, got it serviced. They did not eat or had lunch, and they went straight back to work. Inside, they are thinking, at least that's one burden off their shoulders. Inside, you are thinking, they barely spoke to me today. Both people are looking at the same day and counting different evidence. One counted presence, the other counted responsibility. One asked, why weren't you there? The other thought, part of the reason I wasn't here was because I was taking care of us, taking care of you. Neither is automatically wrong. But if they never investigate, both leave that day feeling unloved, uncared for, unseen. See, love isn't always sitting across from you holding your hand. Sometimes love is under the hood of your car. Sometimes love is taking the extra shift because the bills arrive next month. Sometimes love is carrying a responsibility quietly so it never reaches your shoulders. Let me turn the cross-examination around. The busy person doesn't get a free pass either. You cannot spend every waking hour providing, solving, working, and building, and then become offended when the person you love says, I miss you. I wish you were here. I wish we could spend more time together. Responsibility is an expression of love. It is not a replacement for the relationship. You may know why you are working so hard. They may not. You may know they are on your mind. They may not feel it. Love that is never communicated can become difficult for another person to recognize. And that's where two sincere people start hurting each other without intending to. One says, everything doing is for us. The other says, then why do I feel so alone, so abandoned? Both statements can be true. And if your only goal is proving which one's right, you will miss what the relationship is trying to tell you. We don't know. We end up filling up empty spaces, and we rarely fill empty spaces with neutrality. We fill them with history of insecurity, expectations, comparisons, and fear. That's why an unanswered text feels like abandonment, why a busy week feels like rejection, why someone needing space feels like the beginning of a goodbye. The event is happening today, but the story explaining it was written years ago. Strip the case all the way down to the studs. What do you actually know? What can you prove? Because before you can investigate the story, you have to separate it from the evidence. Stories are built one conclusion at a time. Most of us never notice when we stop observing what happened and start authoring what it means. Let's reconstruct the latter. Fact: the phone doesn't ring. That's all. Interpretation: they are too busy to call me. We added information. Assumption: if I mattered enough, they'd make time. We are now assigning value. Story. I'm not a priority. Something has changed. I'm the only one trying. Emotion. Hurt, angry, anxiety, resentment. The emotions is real, but the story that created it hasn't been verified. Behavior. The phone rings. You answer cold. I'm fine. Outcome. They feel the coldness, pull back, and start climbing their own ladder. They are always upset. Maybe they would be happier without me. Look at what happened. Your behavior just became their exhibit A. Two people, still caring, still wanting the connection, but both slowly stepping back. You might say, Sir Chain, I'm just protecting myself. I've been hurt before. I understand. You have trusted before and been burned. So you learn to watch, prepare, and expect the worst before it surprises you. You call that protection. But what is that protection costing you today? If you wake up every morning looking for evidence that you are about to be hurt, you don't avoid tomorrow's pain. You experience a little bit of that pain today, tomorrow, and the day after that. You think you're protecting yourself from a future heartbreak. But if you are rehearsing that heartbreak every single day, fear doesn't have to wait for the relationship to end to hurt you. It already has. Here is a certain law. Fear doesn't always run from love. Sometimes it slowly removes everything love needs to survive. Sometimes the story you're telling yourself didn't even begin inside the relationship. You borrowed it from somebody else. You see the anniversary post, the surprise vacation, the matching outfits, the curated captions. Comparison quietly enters the room. Suddenly, you aren't asking, is my relationship healthy? You are asking, why doesn't my relationship look like theirs? You know, your relationship from the inside, the arguments, the bills, the stress, the messy mornings, the unglamorous season. You know the full documentary. When you look at another couple online, you see a 30-second trailer. You don't know what was said in the car before the photo. You do not know what they were fighting through or trying to forgive. You do not know if their relationship is stronger than yours or simply photographer is better. Yet their highlight reel becomes your partner's implicit test. Listen carefully for one word should. They should call me more. They should know what I need. They should surprise me like his friend surprises her. Every should deserves a forensic audit. Where did the standard come from? Was it ever communicated? Was it ever agreed upon? Or did you inherit it from a stranger's social media feed or a comment that was said? The expectations without communication eventually becomes resentment without explanation. Here is another Sir Chain law. Never compare the full documentary of your relationship to the trailer someone else just released. Now the case takes the darkest turn. You start preparing for the end. You tell yourself, don't get. What if the biggest threat to your relationship isn't always what happened? What if it's what happens next inside us? Because there comes a point when something can feel so true, you stop questioning whether it is true. And once that happens, you don't need proof anymore. You start seeing proof everywhere. Fire and ice, truth under pressure, case file 004. The story you told yourself. Make sure and catch us this Thursday. Before you believe the story, hear the case. Get too comfortable. Don't trust too much. I've seen this movie before. I know what's going to happen. So you protect yourself by withdrawing. Yesterday's text, good morning, love, emoji heart. Hope you have an amazing day. Today's text, morning. You do not call to see if they will call. You pull away to see if they will chase. You say nothing while hoping they understand nothing means everything. You create a test they never knew they were taking, and when they fail it, you file it as evidence. See, I knew it. Did they fail to love you, or did they fail a secret test that was given? You fear they are pulling away. You protect yourself by pulling back. They experience your coldness. They protect themselves by giving you space. You see their space. You say, I knew they were pulling away. Did you predict the ending? Or did fear slowly teach the relationship how to become what you expected it? You pay an insurance policy every single day, and you pay for it with peace, vulnerability, affection, and presence. Here is another chain law. You can spend much time protecting yourself from losing love tomorrow, that you stop experiencing the love that's standing in front of you today. Where did your story learn to speak? Fear rarely invites its vocabulary on the spot. It remembers. Somebody before them lied. Somebody promised to stay and walked away. Somebody taught you that trust was dangerous. So when a new person does something that resembles an old wound, an old witness takes the stand and says, I've seen this before. Similarity is not identity. A late text that was sent to you is not automatically the ex who disappeared. A difficult conversation is not automatically the partner who belittled you. A busy season is not proof that someone stopped caring. The person in front of you cannot successfully defend themselves against a case they weren't present to create. Wisdom remembers, but wisdom also investigates. Your scars can teach you. They just shouldn't get unrestricted authority to testify in every new case. Take the stand under oath. Question 1. The last time you were convinced something was wrong, what did you actually know versus what you feared? Question number 2. What motive did you assign without asking them? Question 3. What positive evidence did you ignore because it contradicted your story and what you believed? Question number 4. Did you test them without telling them they were being tested? Question number 5. How much of your relationship did you actually experience? And how much time did you spend analyzing where it was going? Question 6. Did someone try to love you while you were too busy protecting yourself to recognize it? The verdict isn't that your feelings were wrong. Your feelings were real. The verdict isn't that every fear was imaginary. Some had real weight. We were investigating the distance between what happened and the story you told yourself about what happened. In that distance, relationships lose curiosity. We stop asking, help me understand, and start saying, I already know. We stop responding to the person standing in front of us and start fighting a ghost. Before you make a decision, run your story through these 5 filters. What do I know? What do I feel? What do I fear? What have I assumed? What can I verify? Your feelings deserve honesty. Your fears deserve compassion. Your assumptions deserve investigation. And the evidence deserves respect. Do not confuse them. You cannot fully experience today while emotionally rehearsing tomorrow's funeral. Before you accuse, ask. Before you assume, verify. Before you compare, look again at what is actually in front of you. If trust has been broken, name it. If your needs aren't being met, communicate them. If you were wrong, own it. If they were wrong, deal with what is true. Do not let fear write an ending to a story that truth has not finished telling.